going off. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, all our participants and speakers, and welcome to this session for artificial intelligence for data in Europe. This is a topic attracting growing technical interest, budget funding, and the user expectation, as well as policy attention. And we are going to have three speakers: Evangelia Marchidou from the European Commission, Michele Lazzarini from the EU SatGen, and Pierre-Philippe Mathieu from the European Space Agency. If you have questions for them, please write your question in the box on the right side of the screen, and they will be answered after all the presentations. So let's start with the first speaker, Evangelia Marchidou. She is head of European Commission sector for artificial intelligence technology, deployment, and impact. And she's going to talk about the AI for EU initiative and EARSC's vision for AI.
So hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. So my name is Evangelia Marchidou, and I'm head of sector for AI deployment and innovation at the European Commission. And I'm also the administrative officer responsible for the AI on Demand platform, but also for the AI for Copernicus project that is also, I think, presented today. And I would like to present to you the AI on Demand platform, but also some of the initiatives that we are taking at the European Commission to implement the AI.
I cannot hear anything. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
I think you are muted.
Seems there is still a problem on the sound.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you. Now we can
sorry.
hear you.
The moment I unmuted before, the screen disappeared, so I couldn't see what was happening. So maybe I should start from the beginning.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Could you start from the beginning, please?
So you can see now the slides.
Yeah.
So what I would like to present today is the AI on Demand platform, for which is one of the most important projects that the European Commission is funding when it comes to AI and AI resources. I will explain a little bit the ecosystem view and how the AI on Demand platform engages. There is an echo right now, sorry. So how the AI on Demand platform also engages with the various communities, stakeholders, and relevant initiatives across Europe. And I would like to conclude then also with how the Commission is implementing the AI strategy, the European approach towards AI, and how the AI ecosystem is at the moment, and how ideally it should evolve in the next coming years. So the AI for You project is started 2 years ago, and to explain a little bit, the way the Commission is funding it is through one big project, the AI for EU, and 6 additional projects that we call the ICT 49 projects, of which the AI for Copernicus is one of them. And they ideally are adding functionalities to the platform that started already its work 2 years ago. So the core objectives of this platform is really to ensure that there is no fragmentation across Europe, that there is a one-stop shop for anything related to AI and AI resources in Europe, and to actually also create the supportive platform for all the various stakeholders, so not only of producers of resources, but also of consumers of those AI resources. Now, what is happening now is that We are reaching the 3rd year of the AI for EU project. So we have recently a relaunch of the website. The main elements you can see on the slide of the AI for EU platform is really, I mean, the open calls, the case studies, the AI resources that are available, this AI repository, the AI experiment platform that is also behind, but clearly showing here on this slide also the links with other related initiatives. And with this way also, I mean, populating the platform, but also bringing in users towards the platform. So there is the strategy for this content and value creation is really to bring, you know, the researchers, the ones that are actually producing the AI resources, the algorithms, and bringing also the innovators. In this sense, the way we are kind of seeing them is the purely research projects that are funded also by the European Commission, that are creating resources and populating the AI on demand platform on the one side, and on the other side we have all these innovation projects, the ones that we refer to also the ICT 49, that are adding functionalities but also bringing the users, also low-tech users, but basically all different kind of users, also from different verticals, into the platform. And this way we like to ensure that we have this kind of continuous kind of dynamics of populating, adding resources, but also then also making use and exploiting the resources that are available on the platform, and really ensuring that we have a good and efficient tech transfer. Now, what, as I mentioned before, there are several verticals that have been already identified, and what the colleagues at AI4U have done is also to kind of match the projects that are funded either through our unit, also the directorate, but also in generally European funded initiatives and projects, and how actually to link them according to the innovators, but also to the verticals, and how they can actually collaborate and engage within the platform, adding resources, but also, as I said earlier, adding crucial functionalities, making also the platform easier to use for low-tech users, but also for users that speak languages other than English. Now, as I said, there was a relaunch of the website. This is the new link, ai4europe.eu. The main website has a kind of structured according to what I said also a little bit earlier. It has the AI assets, it has the AI repository, but it also has any kind of news and events related not only to the AI4U and its partners, but any kind of EU project that is collaborating or is engaging with AI4U. It offers courses and trainings, and has also, like this innovative projects, a lot of open calls. So those open calls are also published through the website, and offers then also, of course, links to other kind of funding opportunities. The verticals, I mean, business partners can also present and offer their kind of their information and what they have to offer. So kind of tries to bring everybody together. And what is now hidden here, is not visible, is also the experiment platform, because ideally we would like the platform to not only offer all these resources, but where you can actually experiment and deploy those resources as the next step. And as was said, the way we see the consumers, or the way the on-demand platform sees the consumers, it's pretty much everybody. At the moment, we have the innovators and the researchers, but gradually we want to bring in also low-tech SMEs, public bodies, which will be also in the next step, in the next multi-annual financial framework, and in the follow-up funding of the platform. But in generally, we are targeting the SMEs, because we know also that big industry, they have their own kind of platforms or internal systems. So what we're trying to cater for is, as consumers, is really a majority of the large available, I mean, the large scale SMEs that we have in all the sectors. And we know from information and from service with them that the majority of them don't know actually how to kind of getting their product, improving the product. So we like to do this matchmaking, bringing SMEs together with the innovators, and then improving the services and improving also their products. And this is now, according to the new website, how the AI assets catalog is being kind of structured, and the research contents, the variety of research information that is there. and of course the deployable AIs as assets. This is kind of very interesting because, as I said, there is behind the platform, there is the experiments platform, the Acumas platform based also on open source, where within the platform at the moment it is possible to take an existing AI asset and actually test it, deploy it, and run it, execute it on the experiments platform that is available on the AI4EU. And also it allows to link resources and to deploy the models either locally or through the cloud, or also at the next step also through HPC resources. So these are the aspects that I think make it interesting to other types of users or users who would like to find all these functionalities in one place. Now, what is interesting is also that there is this, along with the AI for Copernicus project, there's also the Stairway project that really also targets the low-tech users, but also it's the project that will extend with ideas and will allow the computation of AI models and moving also a kind of data sets or everything else to different kind of computing resources, whether they're, I mean, on the cloud or on HPC. As I said, there is also the EuroHPC computing infrastructure. So this is something that will be added gradually to the AI on demand platform. But basically, we have these projects, additional projects that not only adding the functionalities to the AI on demand platform, but they make it very interesting to use for a variety of users across Europe. Now, from the Commission side, why do we fund the AI on demand platform? It's because, I mean, we really want to make sure that the EU is the kind of the right place to be, and we really like to move from research excellence to the lab to the market. So we really want to close this kind of gap, because we know that when it comes to research excellence, Europe is very strong when it comes to AI, also in data applications and technologies, but also in robotics. But what is really missing is bridging the gap towards deployment and actually bringing products to the market that are actually being used by users. So not only by SMEs, but also actually by the public in general. So we have the kind of, on the one side, the enabling conditions. Then we have the kind of funding or promoting and supporting initiatives like the public-private partnership on AI data robotics, promoting research capacities, testing and experimentation facilities, the uptake by SMEs, for which we will have also the European Digital Innovation Hubs, and ensure that we scale up innovative ideas and solutions. Of course, it's all about the talents, but also in the coordinated plan, the updated coordinated plan that we published in April, we've also identified sectors that we would like to really invest in further and really ensure that we build strategic leadership in Europe, like climate and environment, health, agriculture, and so on. And how we will actually implement this is basically the investments will happen through the Horizon Europe program, but also the Digital Europe program, which is new, which focuses mainly on deployment, and also through the national plans that from member states, where they will receive the Recovery and Resilience Facility and then have decided where exactly they want to place the money and to invest. So in a way, what we want to make sure is that the Commission supports the creation and the sustainability of a central AI toolbox, and make sure that then we have the distribution channels in place that then kind of distribute the information and the assets and the products that are available. So for the central toolbox, it's not only the on-demand platform, but it will be also these testing and experimentation facilities, which will also work very closely in the future with the on-demand platform. And there are the first set of testing and experimentation facilities. We have chosen 4 sectors, which are the smart cities and communities, agriculture, manufacturing, and healthcare. And you can see here a little bit on the slide, I mean, how actually we are going to see everything working together. As I said, the funding for all of this will happen through 2 different distinct programs, and the AI on demand platform will also be supported through both of those programs. The research part of the AI on demand platform and everything related to the research and technological development will be funded in the future under the Horizon Europe program, but everything related to deployment, the links with the TEFs and bringing in the access to SMEs, ensuring that SMEs can use the resources, and also the link with the digital innovation hubs. All of that will happen under the Digital Europe program, which will be launched later this year. I don't know if you're aware also that the first calls of Horizon Europe have been launched this week. Digital Europe, the calls will be launched probably in the beginning of September. And the AI, the European AI landscape, the colleagues in AI4U have started creating this, but we wanted to kind of show also, I mean, the various actors that are actually playing an important role in making this ecosystem actually thriving, but also, I mean, to sustain this ecosystem. And as you can see here, what we have here is the majority of the aspects that are on this slide are funded by the European Commission. There are, of course, many more other initiatives that are not yet on this landscape, but we try really to have a very good picture of what exists out there, what has been funded, and how actually we can make everybody work together. And I think also for you and the audience of today, there are possibilities to collaborate together. The AI4U platform and the colleagues there are open for collaboration. And I think we have a good link with the AI for Copernicus project. And I would like to close here. I don't know how much time I've used, but sorry, apologies again for the beginning, for the sound. So thank you from my side.
Okay, thank you very much, Angelia. And now is the turn of Michele Lazzarini. He is a project manager in research, technology deployment and innovation at EARSC, and he's going to speak to us as a user of the AI for Copernicus project. Michele, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you see my screen? Full screen? Okay, I assume yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. So, Michele Lazzarini, I'm a project manager at the Satellite Center. I work for the Research, Technology Development Innovation Unit. It's the unit that I work for. I will say a couple of words about this soon. So if you don't know our agency, we are an agency of the EU Council with the aim of supporting the European Union in the field of a common foreign security policy by analyzing data from space-based assets and collateral data. We are based in Torrejón de Ardoz, near Madrid. We have more than 25 years of experience, almost 30 now actually, as a user of Earth observation data. And we are a service provider to member states and other stakeholders of mainly joint services. The unit that I work for, as I said before, is called RTDI. It's a research innovation unit with the aim of implementing a new operational solution looking at the whole Earth observation collateral data life cycle. Maybe in the audience there are some of the partners we work in the past. This is the H2020 projects we are working right now, and the main institution and initiative we are cooperating with. I will not spend too many words regarding the importance of AI in general, because I guess we are all more or less aware about the wealth of data we are receiving right now. I would like maybe to say something about specifically the security domain. For instance, if you're thinking about possible tasks that we can have, maybe scanning an entire country to look for some presence of runaway, or scanning some coastline to see the presence of ships or something related to migration. So you can imagine it's actually a very time-consuming job with a lot of human intervention. Of course, the AI in our field is very important because it can actually improve things like cutting the time and reduce the human intervention. And SATSA is actually working in different initiatives with the use of AI for space and security. The initiative we are working with, some of them belong to the Horizon H2020 projects. One of the will be focused today will be AI for Copernicus, but AI is also present in other projects we are working with, like GEM, Global Earth Monitor, or Promenade, Callisto, Arcos. So all these projects are related to AI. Cooperation through initiative with other agencies. For instance, Pierre Philippe is one of the panelists, and we actually had a nice collaboration in the past regarding the extraction of road from a desert area with the PhilLab. And there are also other internal activities in collaboration with the other unit division, SATSEN, IT capability development operations. We are an operational center, so it's very important for us that, of course, there is a part of research, but the research has to be applied research, because the solution that we are looking for should be operational in the short or medium term. AI for Copernicus, just to reconnect to what the project officer Evangelia said before, is a part of ICT 49 calls. It started in January, and now we are approximately at month 6. The project website is online, so you can check and have all the information you need. As has been said before, the aim of AI for Copernicus is to connect basically the diocese and let's say the Earth observation world to this AI for EU platform, meaning connect the diocese, meaning connect the data, connect the available services, connect the user, connect the market. Focusing on the SATSEN role, we are responsible for bootstrapping services. Bootstrapping services are services, let's say, that are going to support the bidders for from the open calls. This topic of open calls will be also discussed later on by Xenia from Demokritos, our project coordinator. Basically, will be the first batch of open calls will be open very soon in July, so some funds will be available for consortium bidding for these open calls. The bootstrapping services, as I said, are supporting the development of AI tools. For instance, we as these open calls, I have some echo coming. As I said, are supporting. Somebody can close the mic. Development of AI tools. For instance, we as great. Okay,
yes,
looks
I'm
fine.
sorry. And
Fine.
excuse me, Michele, just to interrupt you for a second, could you, because we cannot see your presentation correctly, if you could stop sharing and share your whole screen, then we'll be able to share it with all the participants.
Okay, since the beginning, this problem, or?
Yes, unfortunately, we could see it in the back end, but unfortunately our attendees couldn't see it. We're very sorry for that. So if you could stop sharing and then start sharing your whole screen, not the presentation, then we'll be able to share it with all the attendees.
Okay, I stop. So now you can see the screen?
Yes, it's the whole screen. If the technical team can just confirm if everything is okay. Yes, I think you can press slideshow so that we can see full slides from your side.
Okay.
And let me know just one tiny second if the technical team can confirm that we can screen it to all our attendees. Yes, and now everything is visible to attendees. Very sorry for the pause. Please continue.
Okay, very sorry. I didn't. I was not looking for it in the chat, so I didn't know it was this problem. So just coming back briefly, so there are 4 domains for this project. We represent security, health, agriculture, and energy, plus the technical partner. Technical partners are going to work mainly on this interaction between this AI for EU platform and AI for Copernicus. As I said, we are responsible for the bootstrapping services. For instance, we will make available services like pre-processing on Sentinel-1 or Sentinel-2 images in order that, to support basically the bidders, because I expect that the bidders will mainly focus on the development of AI tools without taking care of where the data are and how to pre-process the data. So we can just really focus on the end of the chain, let's say. And we, of course, we're going to manage as a security institution the security open calls. The scenario we would like to see for AI for Copernicus, this is a little bit of a preview because the open calls will be actually announced the next month. Anyway, just to give you some ideas and to start to think about it, we would like to see something about exploiting, of course, Earth observation data. In addition, with relevant collateral data can be suitable for our domain, can be geolocation data, AAS, statistical data, climate weather, using, of course, AI and latest technology, with the idea of contributing to shape the digital twin Earth for security. You probably know what is a digital twin Earth. Actually, in the last Big Data for Space conference, our colleague Paola Samegno presented the approach that we are now following for the creation of this digital twin Earth for security. Going a bit more in detail, this is our actually last slide regarding the scenario description. The first one, critical infrastructure anomaly detection. So what you would like to see is the detection of infrastructure like roads, building, or ports, and also detection of anomalies. Can be like a road blockage or infrastructure like a disruption, using mainly Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2, but it's very important to also support this with the very high resolution data and collateral data if available. Of course, there are some tools on the market doing this, but I think there is still a lot of room for improvement. Also, it's very important for us that this tool has to be operational, as I said before. So we should be able to transfer this tool from one area to another very easily and not like losing too much accuracy on this. Second one, maritime situational awareness. We are interested in what is happening in the sea with relation to security. Can be vessel route prediction or route anomaly detection or detection of the speed of a vessel. Visualization in real time, and of course, this is something that you can do with the data, in particular SAR data, but also with the support of other data like AIS. I think also here it's very important to have something in this on this topic, because sometimes the domain a little bit disconnected between them. So it's would be useful and interesting for us to see something in this domain. Synergy of Earth observation with geolocation data. We had some pilot tests in the past about the possibility of locate people in a anonymized or pseudo-anonymized way. This is very important, for instance, to have like this synergy with Earth observation data to detect potential risk in critical situation, for instance, hotspot detection for migration, identification of road blockages, disruption in the supply chain. All these topics are of interest for us. Climate security is the last one. Is let's say a recent domain. We had a workshop also organized in collaboration with ESA and UISS last Monday. You probably heard about this topic. Is related to address scenario in which climate change is affecting safety and security of the people. You can have some example, for instance, forced migration caused by environmental hazards or food insecurity due to climate variation in vulnerable areas, or its relationship to conflict or environmental crimes, illegal activities. So it's actually more than a topic, it's like an interconnected domain where data from different sectors can be used, like metadata or statistical data, conflict data, in addition to the classic Earth observation data and resources. So just to conclude, I think artificial intelligence is, of course, an extremely powerful tool in the space security domain, especially with respect to task automatization, increased productivity, and reduced human intervention. We have several initiatives in SATSEN to implement these solutions, and AI for Copernicus actually is giving us an excellent chance to develop application for the space security domain. Open course mechanism that will be open soon, and it will be explained also by Xenia in the pitching session, will foster a EU market for the development of this application, and we are really happy to receive as many applications as possible about security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michele. Now is the turn of our third panelist, Pierre-Philippe. Observation Future Systems Department at the European Space Agency. Please, Pierre-Philippe.
Thank you very much, Marcello. Before starting, can I check you can see me, hear me, see the slides, and presentation. So what I will try to do here is give a few general remarks about why we do AI and Earth observation. As you know, AI is getting everywhere in your phone, etc. But there has been massive improvement in terms of computer vision and natural language processing, enabling then autonomy of robots, and we want to capitalize on this. Some people also say AI is just statistics, which is true. I took this little schematic here. But for the moment, this is statistics on steroid, and this is really powerful, in fact, to look at the big data we have. But we have to remind ourselves that it's statistics. So we need domain experts to interpret this, because this tool is very powerful, but also the interpretation is very sensitive. In fact, the word intelligence itself has many definitions, as you know. There are very different types of intelligence. What I see really the revolution for us in Earth observation is the ability of this new technique to basically generate software that address problems that you cannot formulate easily. And you do that by a learning paradigm. And this is key, because this is really changing the way you build software. But I also remind our audience that our target is basically our planet. AI is just a technology to help understanding this beautiful planet, along with many observations we're now taking, both with Copernicus, which is providing the full sensing across the spectrum, but also research missions like the Earth Explorers and the MET mission. Also, the new space is really key in bringing high frequency, high resolution data, but commercial, I have to stress, and then new data from drones. So the key here we have is this variety of data with a variety of error, different sensing mechanism, etc. How can we make sense of this, also given the number of pixels we have, that if you do it by human eye, it would take decades. So that's why machine learning, which is the bit of AI we are really looking at, is really suitable for this in terms of scalability.
Excuse me, Pierre-Philippe, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but unfortunately, two technical things are in the way. If you could make the presentation full screen, because we can see the overview of the presentation, not the full slide. And then, of course, we are still on the first title slide, and I'm not sure if that's correct, or if we should.
Then we have a massive problem, because I'm in full screen and I'm at slide 10.
Oh, could you try and maybe stop sharing your screen and reconnect again? I'm very sorry for that.
There is clearly a delay between what we do and what we stream.
Yes, but we're trying to be with you in the backend at the same time, so unfortunately. A second, then we lost it. Unfortunately, it's still the presentation mode. It's not the full screen. Oh, yes, maybe this could help.
So this one is the full screen. I have no other options to test.
Okay, if that is, I mean, if that is the maximum we can get, I assume we can proceed with that, and then just click on the new slide so that we can follow as well.
Yes, good. And then we discuss about what to show online after that if you don't see it. But can you confirm you see a microscope here?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay, so basically, just to come back to the presentation, the point is that you need to turn all these data here into a kind of new synthetic sensor. And that's what AI is really good at. It's bringing all that together to build the most comprehensive picture of this planet. And in fact, it does that through a kind of tensor view, and this is what we try to build. So transforming all these pixels into a kind of huge matrix where you know parameter to end up telling you where El Nino is happening, where there is a fire, etc. So that's really the challenge here, how to turn this big data into a variety of information. And to do that, there is a totally new way to do things, a new value chain or workflow of AI, which is, of course, very data-driven. and most of the time, like 80%, is recognized by a practitioner to be spent in the preparation of data. And what we try to build, in particular in the PhilApp, in ESA in general, and also with partner in the European Commission, is a variety of use cases that we can compare to a kind of app store, where we have different functionality. Can I ask also people to mute, please, because there is a background noise. Okay, so just a note here, our friend Andrew Ng just called for a more data-centric AI recently. I find this very interesting because people have been building software that they forgot that it's basically garbage in, garbage out. So that most of the thing happens in the data preparation. And he's now calling for a focus on this, in particular in something called MLOps, which would be the operational chain for application. And I'm stressing that here because for me, it's the key to exploitation of data at scale and on an operational basis. So at the PhilApp and in ESA, we are trying to build a variety of tools complementing other tools. I mean, there is a big cake out there to do this. We have tools here done by Synergize for annotating data, labeling, georeferencing data. We have tool optimized for hyperspectral data. This is a totally different ball games. Frugality of AI. We have tools for SAR, which is also a different sensing mechanism and requires different approach to AI, in particular using the magnitude, the phase, the polarimetry. So there is a whole domain there still to be explored. We are building like data set of coherence as a kind of AI-ready data set. And by doing this, we try to unleash a variety of application of AI, which goes from analytics to classification and automation. You can see here that this technique, which was really booming in 2012 in the world of computer vision, is now reaching us like a tsunami. And most of the things we do are through deep learning, which is tuning parameter in multi-machine learning layers. And again, the key thing is to prepare these data cubes so that we can use that. There is also a new frontier of unsupervised learning or self-learning, automatically finding patterns. We are also exploring this field with techniques like self-organizing map, finding you the clouds, the water bodies, the streets, etc. Another very powerful aspect of machine learning is that you can transfer the learning because of the paradigm. So you can learn on drone data like we do here with WFP, World Food Programme, UNICEF. They have campaigns. We train the algorithm and then we try to scale geographically by transferring it to Sentinel-2. Machine learning is also very good in enhancing resolution through what is called super resolution, and there are different techniques, generative models, multi-frame, etc. This is an example of multi-frame with the proba sensors. But there are also many research questions like what do we see exactly? Is it just an artifact, what we call an hallucination, or is it the truth? So this is also a research area, but with a lot of commercial application. A very interesting angle is the interaction between the science and machine learning called the force paradigm, where you could build analysis and then make hypotheses that you would then validate with data. So there is a full new scheme there to explore, and there is this Earth system data cube that we are using to find patterns in a multivariate domain for the Earth system. We are also trying to emulate sophisticated models with statistical approximations, like here for atmospheric model, and that enables us to generate synthetic data also that we can then train models. And all these technologies feed into a bigger vision called the Earth Data Twin, a kind of digital version of the world where you would merge our knowledge from observation, from the models, so first principles, and then the AI would try to mine this and help predicting this better at very high resolution. We have done some precursor of this. This is an exercise we did with FDL, Frontier Development Lab, to really accelerate the prediction of rain, and they came up with an algorithm that is super light and super accurate. I invite you to look at this. That means that it can be used, for example, in Africa with people who don't have big computers. So it can help in development as well, because most of these population are sensitive to the rain, of course, for agriculture. And last thing before I conclude, the whole aspects of bringing the machine learning at the edge through tiny machine learning is really disruptive for space, in particular in the way we would deal on extracting information on board and maybe downloading it directly to the user. This would bring really a kind of a very high latency. And we're exploring this with a demonstration mission called FISAT-1, where we put off-the-shelf chip from Myriad just to check if the machine learning on board could work. And it does work. Here we use it to classify clouds so that we understand what to download. And that would really be the seed for a wider interconnected system of smart sensors, basically the IoT on Earth being implemented in space. So that's the big vision indeed. So just to conclude, what we've seen here is that AI, and in particular machine learning, is very powerful in a variety of methods and applications, but really accelerating our understanding of the data by in fact understanding the inside of the structure of the data. This is the whole paradigm behind it. And there are a lot of scientific questions still to address, and that's why we have a kind of research agenda, looking on how to bring the physics and the statistics together, how to transfer this to other scale, to quantify the uncertainty, to look at self-learning scheme and supervise, generative models, new way of computing through like neuromorphic chip, but also quantum machine learning. So a lot on our plate, and we need your help and the help of the community. So if you have any interest on working on this domain, we have opportunity in the PhiLab, and it's very, very timely because this intersection of big data and machine learning is happening now and leads to a lot of opportunities. And I'll stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pierre-Philippe. I think we had a very, very intense set of information and opportunities presented by all the speakers. We now have just one question from the audience, and the question is for Evangelia Maridou. What are the links between AI for EU and the Gaia X? For are mapped to Gaia X data spaces or European common data spaces? So the link with the Gaia X.
So basically, yes, I should have maybe provided also another slide. It's true there are links with Gaia X. The colleagues at the AI on Demand platform have done a very good job to really connect with all the initiatives. Yes, with Gaia X, but yes, also with the European data spaces that will be funded through Digital Europe. So with any kind of initiatives, and just reconfirm to you also that the on-demand platform is based on open source. So it's a platform for Europeans, and will collaborate, of course, with any kind of European initiative. Gaia X, there are already links, and they have, I think, meetings and everything, but all of that will further develop in the next phase, and most probably under the Digital Europe program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Evangelia, for the quick answer. I think, unfortunately, due to the technical problems, we have now to stop here. I would have had a couple of questions, but I will ask them directly. So thank you, everybody, for attending the conference. We are sorry for the technical problems, and we beg the pardon also of the speakers because they've been affected in their work. And so have a nice afternoon, and let's have a continuation of this AI for data in Europe. And I think Manuel is going to take over. Right?
Thank you. So now we will start the pitching session with first speaker, Anna-Catherine Debian, for the project AI for EO. And Catherine, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Xenia, I think you can go.
Okay. Hi. Good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you. I'm Xenia Ziouvellou, and I'm a research associate at the National Center for Scientific Research, Demokritos. I will try to go as fast as possible. I know we are quite ahead of time. So just a few words about Demokritos. Demokritos is the National Center for Scientific Research and is the biggest multidisciplinary research center in Greece, supporting research, education, and innovation for more than 50 years. It has 5 research institutes, and the Institute of Informatics and Telecommunications that I'm representing here is involved in a number of flagship EU-funded projects and national projects and initiatives, one of which is AI for Copernicus that Demokritos is leading. As our project officer mentioned a while ago, AI for Copernicus is a research and innovation action that will last for 3 years, aiming to reinforce the AI4EU platform by advancing Earth observation intelligence, innovation, and adoption. So we have a quite broad consortium composed by 11 partners from 7 EU countries, both experts in the AI domains and Earth observation domains, representing the industrial as well as the research and academic communities. Now, our motivation. The motivation for the AI for Copernicus project is essentially to integrate 2 distinct ecosystems. From the one side, we have the AI ecosystem with the Copernicus as the world's largest space data provider. And from the other, we have the AI4EU, the AI on-demand platform that was mentioned a while ago as the flagship Central European entity for AI, for advancing and enhancing AI. So from the one side, we have the explosive growth of data, and from the other, we have the need to advance the development and uptake of innovative, trustworthy AI. However, given this potential of AI and Earth observation, we still see that this huge potential remains untapped. This is what AI for Copernicus project is trying to do, essentially bridge these 2 worlds by bringing together AI-driven innovation, data-driven innovation, and making AI4EU the digital environment of choice for the Copernicus users, researchers, and innovators. So how we will achieve that? We have a 3-fold goal. One is to drive technical integration that has already started in the context of AI4EU, accelerate AI and Earth observation innovation via a series of open calls, and drive evolution, uptake, and impact in all the involved platforms, both the AI4EU and DSS. This can be graphically represented in this slide, where you see the AI4EU catalog with all the tools and services and the experimentation environment where users are able to create workflows for AI systems. And from the other, we have the data access hubs and AI for Copernicus integrating with specialized services and tools that will be provided. So this integration aims to bring together and bridge the gap between AI and data-driven communities and facilitating value-driven co-creation between diverse stakeholder segments, as you can see here, facilitating this co-creation between closed and open communities and multi-stakeholders for various purposes. This gap that we try to bridge is also focusing on the technical component that is trying to bridge the space between opportunity development and product development and application, essentially bridging the valley of death, the so-called valley of death, in order to facilitate innovation in the area of AI and Earth observation. This will be done via a series of acceleration programs that will be enhanced via the AI for Copernicus open calls, essentially a 16-month period of acceleration, offering funds, support, mentoring, specialized workshops and sustainability mentoring, as well as the AI for Copernicus Trust Mark, aiming to create a pool of services, tools, and trusted AI solutions for Europe. This open calls process that we are kickstarting at the end of this month will involve 4 distinct open calls. The first one will be for use cases in 4 industrial domains: health, security, agriculture, and health, security, agriculture, and environment. And then we will have an open call for citizens trying to identify social challenges that will be subsequently resolved by companies, and an open call for experiments that will target high TRL level SMEs with innovative solutions. This 16-month of support will essentially cover our first round of open calls that will be launched during the end of this month. Will involve SME consortia with at least one low-tech SME in these 4 industrial domain, and will offer up to 150K per project. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you. So we just heard Xenia from AI for Copernicus, and now we will hear Anne-Catherine for AI for EO. Thank you.
Screen. So I'm Anne-Catherine. I work at Space Tech Partners, and I am the project manager of the AI for EO initiative with the ESA's VLab. What we will do within AI for EO, what we're doing is establishing a community to foster interaction between the AI and Earth observation community. We are building a platform that will host at least 3 challenges, AI for EO challenges, which run for about 2, 3, 4 months and focus on grand societal challenges, which we address with Earth observation data, but whereby we invite the AI community, data scientists, to apply their idea and their algorithms on a set of Earth observation data, and combining both the physical science of Earth observation and then the data science of AI. We hope to create new products, new solutions to tackle large environmental challenges. Who are we? So we work together with our partners at Planetech Italia, Synergize, Gmatics, and EarthPulse, who is building the platform. And we also receive support throughout the project from MIO, StudioMap, Trilateral, and Verhaert. We have just finished our very first challenge, which was focusing on air quality, and have launched on Monday our second challenge, which is open to everyone interested in participating, and which will focus on the land management applications using Sentinel-2. So the idea of the challenge is to map cultivated land using Copernicus Sentinel-2 imagery and to extract information at a higher resolution than the native 10-meter pixel resolution. So in particular for agricultural areas or features that are smaller or narrower than this Sentinel-2 pixel size, we could use AI methods to extract that kind of information. So the challenge has launched on Monday and will run until the 30th of September. And it's open to anyone interested, having a background both in AI and you want to learn about Earth observation, or Earth observation and you want to learn about AI. All of the data, a Jupyter Notebook, cloud computing is available on platform.ai4yo.eu. And when you participate, you have the chance to win some exciting prizes. There's over 180,000 euros in our prize pool, and winners get a bucket of points, which they can then use to pick and choose from the prize catalog, with some exciting prizes from our sponsors, L3Harris and Planet, and several other prizes containing technical mentoring, business mentoring, AI for Copernicus support. So we hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now we will have the last speech from Johannes for the DeepCube speech. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much for this invitation. So today I will speak to you about DeepCube. It is an AIDS 2020 project that is coordinated by the National Observatory of Athens, and it is being funded by the Space Calls. So DeepCube focuses on explainable artificial intelligence pipelines for big Copernicus data, and it just started in January 2021 and will have a duration of for 3 years. So what makes DeepCube different? Why do we see it as a different project? Well, first, we design new architectures to address new Earth observation problems that imply high environmental and societal impact, enhance our understanding of the Earth's processes correlated with the current and the future climate emergency, and feasibly generate higher business value. So what kind of problems are we talking about? First, we'll go beyond typical computer vision classification problems and address applications that require the quantitative estimation of variables that relate to geophysical and or biological processes. For example, understanding the role of atmospheric anomalies in Mediterranean fire regimes, just to give an example. So in this kind of problems, we need to reimplant physics into the learning process. There are different ways to approach this. Second, we address problems that exploit non-space data as well. So linking other information sources, such as social network data, industry-specific data, sensor data. And this allows us to create new value chains. And third, we address AI problems that make use of interferometric synthetic aperture radar data, which is a very rich data source with Sentinel-1 in orbit since 2014, and for which very little has been done by the research community and the scientific community in general when it comes to AI-based applications. So let's see what kind of technological tools we have in our hands in DeepCube. So we have the Earth System Data Cube that was mentioned by Pierre-Philippe before, which is basically a multivariate data set of essential Earth system variables placed on a common grid and setting a common data model, so effectively becoming an analysis-ready data set. We have the Semantic Data Cube, which is a functionality of posing semantic queries on top of the Earth System Data Cube. We have HopSource platform developed by our partner Logical Clocks, which is an excellent platform for doing distributed deep learning and scaling up AI applications. And we have the visualization tools for linking geospatial data with Earth observation products and also with social media data as well. And finally, we'll bring all this together through the DeepCube platform that that is being designed to be an interoperable platform deployed seamlessly in different cloud computing environments. So in which areas does DeepCube has an impact on? Let's see our use cases. So we have, as an overview, 6 use cases that I will talk about just now. I would just like to highlight that each use case, we use different AI approaches and methodologies. We have hybrid modeling, causality, you can see my mouse here, hybrid and explainable artificial intelligence, the use of interferometric SAR data in 2 use cases, and industry-specific data in another use case as well. So each use case is somewhat unique. The first one is on the forecast of extreme drought heat impacts in Africa, led by Max Planck Institute of Biogeochemistry. And here the motivation is that the prolonged drought effects has an impact on agriculture and inland waterways, and subsequently in nutrition and energy supply channels. So the goal here is to predict the localized impacts of droughts, given core-scale meteorological information and using Sentinel data as to solve this downscaling problem. And also as a secondary goal to anticipate long-term effects of drought and heat, so effectively capture and model memory and lag effects. The second use case is on climate-induced migration in Africa, and actually on the agenda of the United Nations Convention on Climate Change, there is an item dedicated to migration, displacement, and human mobility. Here, the motivation, the goal is to identify the main environmental and socioeconomic drivers of human mobility, and then to develop models that are able to reproduce and forecast migration flows in Africa. This is a very challenging use case. The third use case is on fire hazard forecasting in the Mediterranean, led by the National Observatory of Athens. So we're expecting that wildfire extremes intensity and frequency will rise in the next decades. So fire hazard forecasting becomes very important. And in this use case, we'll assess fire hazard at large scales and spatial resolution better than existing applications, as you can see on the figure on the right here, and enhance our understanding of fire dynamics in complex ecosystems such as the Mediterranean. Another use case is the global volcanic unrest detection and alerting. And basically, when a volcano enters in an unrest phase, as we say, this causes the Earth's surface to deform, and this can be detected from space. So when observed, this deformation at volcanoes, over volcanoes, is statistically linked to an upcoming eruption. So in this use case, we want to develop automatic detection service of the presence of ground deformation triggered by volcanic unrest on a global scale. We have the critical infrastructure monitoring with persistent scattering interferometry led by Trey Altamira, and here we want to develop a commercial service to monitor and alert for critical infrastructure instability at large scale. And finally, we have a use case on sustainable tourism for Brazil. This is a very interesting use case. More than 65% of European travelers. Yes, this is the final slide. So more than 65% of European travelers have declared that they are striving to make their travels more sustainable, but not find the right information. So this is a mentality change that's happening now, and this use case will incorporate the environmental dimension in the pricing of tourism packages to foster responsible travel. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and this concludes the pitching session. Now I invite you to join the Invest in EO session in a moment. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our another session at Expandeo, Investing in EO. Today, we have a pleasure to discuss the investment, so important part for all the companies and especially startups, and also a very important element for beneficiaries of EARSC. And that's why we're meeting today. Today, we invited 3 investors to discuss the investment from their perspective, and especially in the Earth observation sector. But before we go to our investors, I would like to introduce our moderator of today's discussion panel, Salome Reyo from ABAESEN. So welcome everybody. Please follow our session, ask questions and comments. And Salome, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Veronica, and thanks to EARSC and to Expandeo to inviting me to moderate this session in Investing in EO. I'm Salome Reyo, project manager at ABAESEN, the clean tech cluster in Valencian community in Spain. I'm responsible of the entrepreneurship area. I would like to ask to our fantastic speakers to introduce themselves. So we could begin with Peter Cook. Peter, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, I'm Peter Cook, and a investment officer with the what we call the Disruptive Technology Team at International Finance Corporation, or IFC, which is part of the World Bank. Based out of Washington, D.C., and invest in a few different sectors, but one of them being Earth observation, specifically around climate and agri. I've been at IFC for about 20 years and I've done different things, but for the past 10 years, been part of the early investing team. So I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Let's continue with Luigi Amati. Good afternoon, Luigi.
Hi, good afternoon, Salome, and thanks for the invitation. My name is Luigi Amati. On a private basis, I'm an angel investor. I invest together with an angel group called Italian Angels for Growth, and I'm also the chairman of the European Association called Business Angels Europe. My fields of investments are things I have an understanding of, so mostly B2B and med tech and software companies. No investments in Earth observation technology so far. Professionally, I have a company called Meta, which is providing capacity building and investment for services for knowledge-intensive companies and startups. In this case, we invest in many sectors, from advanced materials to biotechnologies and other sectors. And I look forward to join this discussion because I'm not at all involved in Earth observation as of now, but I understand the potential.
Okay, thank you, Luigi. And let's move last but not least to Dimitris Matsakis. Good afternoon, Dimitris.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Saloma. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for this great session and event. So yeah, rapidly, myself, actually, I'm coming from the industry a bit. So, you know, I have a degree in physics and software engineering from Toulouse, France, and I think that this, you know, played a role afterwards to get involved in the industry. So I was working as a, you know, in a technical position for 4 or 5 years, and then for the last 15 years, either individually, either part of a group or of several teams, actually, I was dealing with business development for space and space tech and the whole chain, including Earth observation and even meteorology, which is a part, you know, of observing the planet as well. So basically, this is what I have done, and I discovered the world of startups quite late, actually, from 2016, and since then, I'm investing. So either you know, other people's money, part of institutional funding. So I was part of you know, judging panels that we provided, I think, about 3 million euros to something like 60 startups in Earth observation. But I also invest on my own. So I made something like between 10 and 20 investments, and from those, I think 5 or 6 are in in the space and Earth observation area. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, thank you, Dimitri. So it's clear that all of us love startups and entrepreneurships work. Some of us having experience in Earth observation and others no. But we are going to try to have a discussion, and I will leave the floor at the end to the attendees to launch some questions for you. Okay. So I would like to, I remember that Tuesday I was in an event with some startups giving their pitch in front of some corporates and some business angels. And all of them had the problem in explaining in a correct way the financials to the business angels and to ask for the quantity they needed. I think that maybe they didn't know the quantity that they needed to the investors, to the business angels. So what do you perceive as the main challenge for companies to get access to funding? Who wants to be the first? Peter, for example?
I mean, I think it's always challenging. The main challenge to getting funding is at an early stage probably is showing traction with a customer. You know, if you can do that, the earlier you can do that, the earlier you can show what looks like a product market fit and some customer validation of that, the sooner you're going to get the confidence of investors. Excuse me. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest challenge. I'm not as familiar with the investing scene in Europe, but I think that there is. I mean, I invest in emerging markets generally, where it's generally more challenging in terms of the sources of funding available. With some, you know, India is very active. Latin America is very active, Southeast Asia, China, obviously, but there's some regions and countries where it can be very challenging. The advantage that a place like Europe has is that you have essentially one market that you can. So it's a large market. That's what one thing investors look for. So that's right away in your favor. But the product market fit and having that value that you can show to customers and you can show to investors as well, say, this is exactly how I help a customer. I solve this problem, and getting that validation.
Yes, I have seen this in some startups that they do not know how to explain the added value they offer to the customers. And for sure, this is for interest for the investors, because if they are not going to have customers, they are not going to scale up the company, they are not going to be of interest of investors, or at least this is my opinion. So what about you, Dimitris? What do you think that is the main problem or the main challenge for companies to get access for funding?
Yeah, so yeah, it's of course a great and a very difficult question. So partly, I mean, I agree with Peter, of course. So, you know, in startups, in early stage, in general, you know, customer attraction is important, or let's say early sides of a product market fit. Now, when we get to sectors as Earth observation, where I think there is a lot of technology inside and actually science, and on the top of that, we also have, you know, a lot of mechanisms of, you know, R&D, financing, grants. Of course, I believe that we all can agree that there are a lot, and there should be there actually a lot of instruments that are helping, you know, de-risking, or let's say providing, you know, some financial service to teams before or in parallel with private investments. Okay, so this is good. Sometimes it can be less good because, you know, the teams can be comfortable with that funding, so they don't get deep, you know, in the minds of the investors. So to me, I will say that what myself, you know, with my small sense, I'm more appreciating and to solve this challenge and this as you said in the beginning, Salome, how much to ask, how I do that, to whom, why, and so forth and so on. So I believe that there is the basics is to have really, some emotional intelligence actually, to understand, the investors, their mindset, to understand, the capabilities that the team has, where they want to go, and then just, do the maths and then, say, we need this from the private investors, and, we will get this from, let's say, public funding, and put it all together and try to scale. So at the same time, and of course, as they say, the best investors are the customers. So for that too, even the guys that are, super good in science, tech, and they know everything, about, let's say, the imagery and the processing and everything, well, they need to have somebody in the team that really, really is obsessed with the customer. So for these two, I think that the emotional part sometimes is more important than, let's say, the geek part or the super good in the tech.
Okay, thank you, Dimitris. We will move after about the issues that you have commented about the possibility of grants and so on also. So, and what's your opinion, Luigi?
Well, first of all, I invest probably earlier stage. So in my case, the traction is most of the times not yet there. So I would say that, it depends at which stage your company is and which investor you're looking for. Probably there are different things that have different weights, at different stages of your entrepreneurial, let's say, career. When I look at, from my perspective, I think that when it's very, very early, the very important thing for an entrepreneur is to really do a good homework. A lot of people do undervalue the time that it takes for two main things. The first is to select the right investors. A lot of people tend to just, go and pitch no matter what. But if you do your homework and you're able to select carefully the investors that might be interested in your company, I think the chances to get funded in the end are much higher, because otherwise the chances of making a lot of pitches and running around and then in the end saying investors don't understand me or there are not enough good investors are very, very high. And the second, again, when it's very early stage, is that you have to understand a little bit the investor logic. That is, the need for grasping very clearly, even if you're quite early, what is your business model and what, if you like, what will be your financial story. So organize, a kind of a cap table in which I can understand very well from the very first stages, how this will end, how much I will be diluted. I need to understand that very clearly, and especially I need to understand that you understand very clearly, what will be the pattern. And then I would say the third point is the language. It is a lot of the time it's like one speaking Japanese and the other one speaking Spanish. People do not understand each other, and entrepreneurs have to make the effort to understand at least the basics of the language of investors in order to make sure that there is an interaction at the right level and you're not stopped, or you don't have barriers because just you don't understand what it is, a liquidation preference or a tag along or this kind of stuff.
Okay, Luigi, for sure, I understand that English is needed for investors because and for startups because they are going to do a lot of pitches in English, and for sure, because I'm remembering a colleague that have an investor from Japan, and I think that he didn't learn Japanese, but they use a translator, a person translating the business. Okay, so let's continue with you, Luigi, because and continue with the Dimitri's opinion about other possibilities of funding like grants. For example, in EARSC Accelerator is the European funded project that EARSC and ABS, and we are there. In that project, for example, we had given one of invest to invest in some sectors and in other no. So I think that you have suggested, could you give us a summary of the different options the companies have for investing, for having an investor there in their company? I mean, how can they increase their capital? Is it always a cost of the ownership rights, at least speaking in private investment? What do you think? What are the different possibilities?
Well, there is a whole, let's say, there is a whole world here of possibilities. You know, financial terms can go in what it is the space of, let's say, quasi equity in a very, very broad sense, from convertible loan to the simple agreements for equity. There is really a lot there. I think, again, it depends from the type of companies and you know, it's very different. I think if it is a company which has you know, the perspectives to grow very fast and be sold in 2 or 3 years, or whether you have to stay into this company maybe for 10 years, like a biotech. So I think that the agreements will be very different depending also on the type of companies. As far as we are concerned, as angel investors, we took a long time ago the choice to invest in syndicates and to do it in a simple way with straight equity, paying, you know, a part of the nominal price for increasing capital, and then paying a prime of an overprice on top of that. And this has 2 main reasons. The one, it's simplicity, and the other one, it's also, of course, some fiscal reasons that make this type of investment quite beneficial, especially for an Italian investors. If you stay in a company over 18 months, whenever you exit on the capital gains, you will have a participation exemption, which will make you pay a fraction of the, you know, of the taxes you would have to pay with other forms of investment.
Okay, thank you, Luigi. And Dimitri first and Peter later. What do you think about investment in more risky technology, especially in the context of Earth observation? Do you think the process for investors is different? Do you think that investors perceive this technology risk as a challenge or as a necessary risk? What is your opinion? Dimitri, from you begin, please.
Sure, thank you. Well, as we all know, you know, the investors, and actually Luigi mentioned that, you know, their job is to get usually, I mean, fast exits, you know. So in tech startups, this is why I believe that all this boom, you know, in the last 10 years was driven by, you know, very fast exits, right? And mostly in software. And of course in the B2C or even B2B, but, you know, very, very fast things and next rounds, you know, that's where the investors get money from. So the startups, of course, they need to understand that. Now, the EO startups, as I mentioned in the beginning, you know, they're coming more from the, you know, science and tech environment, right? So, and their market perhaps is let's say a bit more difficult than a B2C market concerning, let's say, a platform or I don't know, a dating app, or, I mean, I'm not saying that this is harder as tech, but, you know, to grab a market and to scale up, let's say, internationally, you know, it has some challenges, right? So this makes things quite complicated. That's why, and if exactly if we consider that there are also other solutions, you know, to get funded and to move forward, you know, the choice to really go, let's say, for a private investment from angels or VCs, to me, has to really, you know, people need really to think about. And to me, you know, it's all about the why. At the end of the day, you know, I think the people need to really go back to basics this stems from the teams, but also from the investors. So why an investor, will invest in an Earth observation company? Of course, this, has to be in line with the philosophy of the investment, or perhaps they believe this is a really big market beyond, and maybe they're patient enough, after a few years. Now, about the technology risk, I think we're lucky, and we see that. So I don't want to be very, very long, but I think that 10 years ago and right now it's really, really another thing. So we have more public funding, we have more private funding, we have different technology, we have all the AI and all the other software and data processing techniques. So in terms of risk, I do not see a so high risk as, for instance, as Luigi mentioned, biotech, or things that are really, really very, very capital, intense, and they need really big investments. Of course, now if we go to constellations or to space infrastructure, but even there the costs are getting really low. So it's not a risk, I would say, in tech, but more in risk in the basics of investment.
Okay, so it depends in the quantity they need. So for sure, some other sectors like health, as you have commented, need more quantity of investment. Okay, and Peter, I think that you are already working with Earth observation-based solutions. It's your experience with the companies from this sector?
Yeah, I mean, on the spectrum of, say, zero tech to very, very deep tech. I mean, Earth observation is somewhere towards deeper tech. It's not nuclear physics. It's not biotech. That can take quite a long time, but it's definitely, there's deep science and technology there. So, I mean, what attracts investors? I mean, I think what could be helpful for an entrepreneur is to think about, again, from the, echoing Demetrius, you have to have certain emotional intelligence and listening capability to put yourself in their shoes. What attracts an investor to this sector is it may be higher risk because it's deeper tech, but the advantage of that could be that because there could be real science and technology there that forms a moat from the competition that then allows for a greater return. So it's a risk return calculation, and higher risk, but probably potentially higher return. And the I mean, so the investor is thinking about that. And IFC invested in Planet, which was we invested about 7-8 years ago. And it was early at that point, and so it was interesting to us because it was doing something very new in a new, or it was doing something very new, and it was doing it in a new way, and it was going to be able to take a picture of the world once a day, things like that. And and I think so. Investors want to stay on the cutting edge. I mean, we want it both, right? We want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to stay on the cutting edge, but we want to minimize our risk. So, so that's I think some of the issues you see in EO. I think there's also companies that are doing interesting things without putting up satellites, just doing things on the analytics side, and those perhaps look more like software companies that a little bit less risk and faster to market, but potentially could be doing something very interesting, especially if they're doing something first before others and they're connecting with very interesting customers.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So before we move to the questions from the audience, I was going to give you the opportunity to choose between two questions. I would like for you can choose if you want to give us an advice for startups seeking for investment, or if you could give me your opinion about what is the most common mistake the companies seeking funding make. So, Luigi, which question do you prefer to answer? The advice or the most common mistake?
Well, Yeah, I think it's how can I say, it's a specular question. I think that the advice, I believe I already given the advice. I believe it's really a matter of homework, because we have a statistics in the angel world. Most angels will know. Successful angels have spent a lot of hours in the due diligence of the company. And the more hours you spend in the due diligence, the higher the chances that your overall portfolio will have better return. This is a direct relationship. Okay. So what does that mean? That I will investigate you quite a lot. And therefore you have to do your homework very well in understanding, whether I am the right investor, whether I can add the right value, and so on and so forth. So I think it's not just let's go to a pitching event. Really, it's really trying to understand who is my audience, who I will have in front of. A lot of time it will be referral, so you have to be very quick in understanding that maybe Luigi is not an Earth observation expert, but he knows Peter Cook, who is an Earth observation expert. So that kind of thing, you have to be very quick at picking it up, and then try to funnel very quickly the amount of investors you're going to end up with. Otherwise, the opportunities of being lost in translation, even with a good proposal, are very high.
And you're going to waste your time if you do not it in a good way. Okay, Dimitri?
Well, I would try to address both.
Okay,
quickly.
Perfect.
Now, about the advice, I will say that the startups now can and need to just go out of the office and talk to people, right? Be generous in giving information or getting information, giving equity, taking equity. I mean, this doesn't matter, but the need to interact with everybody, with investors, with fellow startups, with clients, with, so maybe sometimes science people don't have this ability, but in the team, they should be social people, I guess, and actually they are. I'm seeing a lot of really good Earth observation startups with fantastic people there in social skills. Now about the common mistake, as I told you, I'm very privileged to have seen Earth observation startups from like 5-6 years ago till today. I believe that the main thing is the lack of focus. In the early days, they used to do like the big corporations, like we can address, this sector,
everything,
and this sector, and this sector, which is true, by the way, because satellite data really can do a lot of things. But focus is really something really so valuable. So focus.
Okay, thank you, Dimitri. Peter, and we have at the end 2 questions from the audience. Okay, Peter.
Yeah, I would just say on the most common, I think you said the most common mistake, I guess. I think that I see is just teams building something that is not necessarily needed or wanted in the market. You see in this age of AI and, used to be called big data and you see a lot of, I see that where companies can say, I can put all this data, I can build this dashboard and put this data in front of my customer, but customers, depending on what they're doing, but especially, for example, I look a lot with agri-tech, so farmers, they don't want to just see numbers. They want to see, what should I do? What exactly should I do next? Instructions and insight. And so, again, being close to the customer and figuring out exactly what is needed in the market and then trying to aim to give that to them, even if you haven't done it yet, even if you haven't solved the problem, again, depending on what stage you're at, but then at least you've defined exactly the value you want to add. So yeah, I think the mistake I see is just companies building a lot of cool stuff, but maybe it doesn't have a need or demand in the market.
Yes, or I have seen other times some startups that they are ready for the market, but the market is not ready for them yet. They have to wait some years to prepare the market for that because they are not Apple, for example, and they are not able to prepare the market for them. So, Veronica, I think that we have some questions from the audience. I don't know if it's yours who is going to launch the questions.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
Okay,
thank you very
Veronica.
much for the discussion. And we have two questions, which I think all of the investors could address. So the first question is, are you interested in a community platform related to investments in space, including Earth observation, enabling all interested parties, stakeholders, to communicate, share events, discuss one-to-one and one-to-many, matchmake, deal flow, etc. So to have kind of, as I understand, Facebook for interactions between investors and the companies. What do you think about the idea?
Luigi, I think you're on mute. I think you're speaking. You're on mute.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead if you can.
Please, Peter.
No, so a Facebook for investors. I think that's kind of what LinkedIn is. And what people tend to do is, I mean, the people like to at a certain point have private conversations, so they post some things, but also if they're talking about a specific opportunity, then they're going to take it off into a platform, off the platform, or into, so it would be not, yeah, I mean, optimally, would people want to have that in front of everyone? From some points of view, people would like to see that and learn, but people don't want to share opportunities with everyone.
Yeah, I was going to say that there are already such platforms.
Yes.
LinkedIn probably being the broadest one, but you have platforms like AngelList in the angel space. In Europe, you have Euroquity, promoted by BPI France, which is also another platform with lots of entrepreneurs and lots of investors. But I agree with Peter. I mean, it's an introduction tool, and maybe it's a tool that can put you like on the screen, so that on the radar of investors or startups. But of course, definitely the discussion as it goes deeper, it will become much more interactive, and eventually, one-to-one or one to very few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I also believe that there are a lot of tools, related to that, and of course it's an interesting target anyway. I was also watching to some webinar the other day, and there were some jokes like, all the billionaires, they have a secret like Slack channel, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and I don't know, they're sending pics to each other or something. But yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, it's cool, but then, again, we have to see a bit the need for that, and if people will really adopt, because they like privacy, and usually they know each other's, or they find each other's, like, okay, let's go invest on that. But I mean, there are really not endless, the number of investors is really limited, right? As vehicles or as private guys. So, and of course, if we take the industry specific, there are even less, even if it is growing. So
yes.
I don't know, it could be cool. I mean, any communication platform is cool, but then, yeah, maybe if it is something new and useful, why not?
Maybe one short thing I would add as a comment is, I think it's also quite different if you are a B2C type of business or if you are a B2B type of business. I believe that for a B2B business, it's mainly down to talking to a VC or talking to an angel group. You have really to explain, the technology or what is that you are developing. When it's B2C, this kind of crowdfunding platforms can also be quite useful, because everybody of us is a consumer, and if you're able to raise money on one of such platforms,
of this platform is a network. It's a Green Innovators Hub, but it has been created by us. We are a non-profit association, so there is not for profit this platform, but we have some entities in the some enterprises or startups in the association that have some crowdfunding companies for photovoltaics, for example, and they for sure get money for this. But they are crowdfunding platforms, not a platform for putting into contact investors with startups, like is the case of Greennovators Hub. That is not a startup. It's a platform created by a non-profit association.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
We cannot hear you, Veronica. Sorry. No.
That is
No.
Yes, now it should be correct. Sorry for that. So yes, we have more questions coming from the audience. So maybe before our speakers need to leave, I will ask one more question, which is very generic regarding the investment process. So basically, if you're normally investing in companies of a certain size or certain countries, so do you have any particular focus or pattern, or how does it usually work?
If I may take first, I invest across different countries in Europe, and of course there is a big difference. And I've been visiting the US quite a few times, and the maturity of the market makes it the investment pattern very, very, very different. I think that it is a matter of how well prepared. I invest a lot in, let's say, research-based or knowledge-intensive based type of companies. So whereas in the US, even that type of companies are already very much, if you like, business ready and investor ready. When you go, for instance, to Central and Eastern Europe, you have to be prepared to take, a longer approach in terms of making that same team probably also business ready. So I think that, and of course, then you can say the same about the amount of money. It's much more probably competitive and valuations are higher in more mature market. So I believe that each and every country, I would say it's quite specific on how you should go about investing, even if you take the same sectors.
Okay, thank you very much, Luigi. And maybe before we go to our other speakers, I will officially thank you, because I know that you need to go for another event. So thank you very much for joining us today. And thank you very much for being a part of the discussion panel.
Ciao.
Thank you very much, Luigi.
Bye.
And now then let's move with the same question regarding, just to remind, if you focus on a certain size or a certain region or a country in the investment process.
I'll jump in. So IFC is part of the World Bank Group, so we focus on emerging markets, which means not Europe or North America or say Japan and Korea. We invest most of the rest of the world, though, we invest in. And so, but in some cases, we can invest in companies based in advanced countries, let's say, or most developed countries like Europe or US. For example, Planet is based in the US. But there has to be a link to the development impact or the market impact in emerging markets. So if it's a European company, there has to be some either plan to go to emerging markets or customers there and so forth. And yeah, I mean, like Luigi was saying, I mean, every market's different. Valuations and tend to reflect the level of maturity and the competition for deals. In terms of the stage we invest in, we're typically investing in Series B and later. So we're actually kind of late venture. We like to see 5 million, say, euros and upwards of revenue already. And so we're kind of late venture. And we invest in some funds that invest earlier, but we're generally direct investment. We invest Series B and later. Hope that helps.
Okay, so it will be very simple for me. I would like to invest early in companies where Peter can invest later in the B round. So that's cool. Now, yeah, I'm also like Luigi. I'm actually quite active across the EU. So I think, yeah, I just made one investment in Greece where I'm living. So I hope that will, I will be more active. But I have my network across the EU and beyond as part of my activity. So no problem with the focus on geographical context. Mostly I'm investing in people. I like the good teams with people that they think of what will be, let's say, needed in 5-10 years, not what they think that today is needed. And of course a lot of things are needed, but people that they think in the future, they are visionary, no matter the tech, no matter what, But really, and including in Earth observation, in 10 years from now, it will be really a different world. Like today is really different than 10 years ago. So that's not a very clear answer, but yeah, I really believe that the human power is behind, even behind the best tech in processing images or in super resolution, with low flying now, microsats or minisats, whatever. So I like to see really strong teams, really passionate.
Thank you very much. I think this is also a great message to both close our session and close this day, because we're closing now our session. That will be all from our side, and I think we'll be also soon closing Expandeo. But of course, there are still some other activities left. So stay on our website and keep on following us. And then officially, I would like to thank our guests and of course our moderator. Thank you very much, Salome, for your input, and thank you very much, Peter and Dimitri, for being today with us.
Sure.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. So here we are at the end of the Expandeo 2021 journey. It has been 2 long and really dense days. We encountered some technical difficulty, which I hope didn't affect too much your experience. We expected initially to reach 500 registrants, and we reached more than 820. During these 2 days, you had the opportunity to listen 70 speakers. You had the opportunity to interact with them. You had the opportunity to explore 40 exhibition booths during these 2 days. To understand more what are the evolution, we have defined this program. We cover a lot of different topics in order to establish and build the future of the Earth observation industry, support the use, develop interactions with community of users, with the support of stakeholders. This is not obviously the end, it's just the beginning. We will now work on all this on this topic to support you in order to develop the use of the Earth observation system, observation ecosystem, and in order to develop the growth of this industry. Thank you very much for your attendance. I hope to see you next year. Maybe we hope in a physical event for the Expandeo 2022. Thank you all.